Welcome to New Bloomfield Elementary's Parent Literacy Workshop. This workshop is focused on improving your child's reading stamina, fluency, and comprehension. How do you feel about this statement? Once children reach third grade, parents do not need to read to them. Children of all ages need to be read to. There are many benefits to reading to children. Take a moment and think about this question. What are the benefits of reading to children? Reading to your child is important and beneficial in many ways. Most importantly, you have together time. You are able to have together time even in our busiest of lives. And as a parent, this shows that you value reading. You are able then to share common interests, and you're able to learn about what interests your child has. Another reason is modeling. Your child will hear a fluent reader with appropriate pacing and expression. Fluency is both the pace and the expression. Pace means that we are attending to punctuation and our phrases. It's when we speed up at times or we slow down at times. There's a certain reason why we do this, and your child needs to know that the punctuation is one of those reasons. The expression is your tone of voice, how you are reading the story, and that how is so important. Your voice is matching the punctuation as well as the dialogue where the characters are talking. Another benefit is to read higher level books. You're able to expose your child to a larger vocabulary and the intricacies of print. By reading these meatier books, we are then able to lead into our comprehension questions. Asking comprehension questions, you're able to have a conversation around the book. You are able then to discuss and extend your child's understanding of the book. Take a moment to think about this question. How do you read to your children? There are many ways to read to your child. First, your child can read to themselves, or you can read with your child. There are two very common ways to read with your child. The first is echo reading. When you echo read, you will read the sentence to your child, and then your child will say the sentence that you had just read. As you are reading this, you are pointing to the text, and then they are pointing to the text when they read. Another way to do this is to choral read, and just like choral says, it means that you're reading it together. So both you and your child will read the same sentence at the same time. Why is this important? Well, it's to build stamina, and we will talk about stamina in a couple more slides. Another way that you can read with your child is to actually just read to them. Read the entire book to them. And this is done when you want to choose a higher level book. Why do we want to read a higher level book? Well, this is where we can improve their fluency. And remember, we just spoke about fluency on the previous slide. That is talking about our pace and our expression. So, some of you may say, reading is not fun for my child. And when you say that, you might hear these same phrases. How much longer? Why do I need to read? How much do I have to read? I don't want to read. I'm too tired. Do I have to read? Struggle with pushback is common for a parent. So what can you do to make it more enjoyable? First, you want to make a routine. Children thrive on routine. And your routine, you might need to break it up. They might read right after school. You might have to split it that it's after dinner, or maybe right at bedtime. You need to find what routine works for you as your family. You also need to make sure that they have a comfy reading spot. If it's not comfy, if they don't feel that they are able to read, then they're not going to want to. Making sure that they're in the right frame of mind. If they're not ready once they come home from school, give them that break, let them have that playtime. They need that playtime, and then come back to it at a later time. So it brings me to our reading stamina. Once a routine is established, now we can focus on the stamina, and this is the ability to focus and read independently for a period of time without being distracted or distracting others. So think of your stamina as a person who is running a race. When you run a race, are you able to run the entire distance without stopping for that needed extra breath? Or do we have to stop several times along the way? How do you build up to making it all the way to the finish line without stopping? Well, you move at a gradual time. So this is where I want to talk about building our stamina. One way to do this is to actually divide up the amount of work. So on here, you can see that the child can read the left side of the page, and then the parent reads the right side of the page. As the parent is reading, the child is still looking at the book and attending to the print. This is very important so that they see the words on the page, but they're also able to hear the story. And you're able to continue reading the book without hearing those phrases of, how much more do I have to read? Another way is to actually read one book, and then the child reads one book, and then the parent reads the next book, or they will repeat that same book again. This is often beneficial when you have a lower level reader, like a kindergartner or a first grade student who has a really thin, smaller book. Because when we talk about reading, we want to be reading for roughly 15 to 20 minutes every night. So some of those smaller books, they're done in a couple of minutes. So to increase the reading stamina, that's where we would throw in another book to read that night. If you have an older student who is in 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade, and they're starting to read those chapter books, this is where you might want to have the student read one paragraph, and then the parent can read the next paragraph. This will, again, continue to let them build their stamina. They're reading and sitting for an extended period of time and will gradually increase this amount of time. Another thing that you want to look at is you want to make sure that the child is reading the words they know and that you are helping with the words they may struggle with. You know your child the best. So you know if they're able to read those high frequency words and how far you can push them before you start getting some pushback from your child. Remember that at home, we want to make this enjoyable for you and for your together time. So I really don't want to have a power struggle. If there is going to be that, choose your battles, okay? We also want to make sure that they have the just right books. If you feel that there's a consistent pattern of difficult books that are brought home from your child's teacher, then have a discussion with that teacher, and they will work with you to pick out those just right books. Another way to build their stamina is the interest of the text. Again, motivation is one of the key components in making sure that anyone is able to extend to anything for an extended period of time. So if you're reading to them, make sure that you're choosing those lively and engaging books. If they are picking out the text, it should be something that already interests them and should be motivating to them. Take a moment to think about this. What are some things you do to check on your child's understanding of what he or she has read? This would be dependent upon the type of book they choose, whether it is a fiction book or a nonfiction book. For fiction books, we often do a 5-finger retell. This is where we state the characters, the setting, the problem. We explain 3 or more of the details, and provide the solution to the character's problem. We can also make a prediction. This is where our students will stop reading and they think about what they think will happen next in that story. You can also have students, or you can also ask your child, who is the most important character and why? This is taking it from just the surface level understanding of their most important character to a deeper level by extending that why piece. They would have to use evidence from the text. We can also ask them, how do the characters change? Or why did something occur? Would you have made the same choice the character made and explain their thinking of why? And my favorite, how would you have changed the story or the ending? Nonfiction books or informational texts would have to be 50% of what we are reading or exposing our children to should be nonfiction books. One of the ways that we can get them to be thinking about what they have read is to do a KWL strategy. And this is where they state what they already know, what they want to learn, and then after they finish reading, they will state what they have learned. If there are headings in their informational text, they can turn their headings into a question. This is an important part of their reading because it gets them thinking and wanting to learn about that particular section that they're going to be reading next. Very important part or ideas, and the most interesting fact, is something where the students are now taking everything that they read about and they're finding that one or two things that's really important or it was the most important to them. The keyword summary and STP, otherwise known as stop, think, and paraphrase, are two somewhat similar concepts where the student will find keywords in the section. They'll pick roughly 3, maybe 5 words, and then using those words that they have identified, they will close the book and then write a summary using those words, and they put it into their own paraphrasing. They put it into their own words, so they are not copying directly from what the author has written. Another way that we can help them is to do cause and effect. Now, this is a great strategy, but it doesn't always work for all of our books. Same with fact and opinion, where students give a fact and they can find opinions in the text, as well as compare and contrast. What is similar and what is different between the items? And it's dependent upon the type of informational book that they have, whether or not they can use these strategies. But it gives you another idea of how to help them. So let's take a moment to think about this next statement. It's better to have a child read a chapter book rather than a magazine article or comic book. Well, anything can be read and understood. It's whatever in our environment. We can even take a look at a recipe from a cookbook. Children need to be able to read and understand the difference between the lowercase TSP and the capital T, B, lowercase BSP for teaspoon and tablespoon. If they don't understand the difference, our recipes could be a disaster, right? So our book choice is very important for our students. It helps with their interest, which could lead to their motivation, and even, as we've talked about, their stamina, how long that they can attend to that text. So there are some common parent misconceptions. You may have heard this statement, that book is too easy for you, or you've already read it before. Everything serves a purpose for when we are reading. Why? If you have an easy book, it is to increase their confidence. It will build their fluency as well. If their book is too hard, as a parent, you can support or expose them to vocabulary and text. But easy books do have a reason for why they need to be reading those. You've already read it before. Repeated books are wonderful because they, again, help with building our fluency and increasing their confidence. And when we talk about their fluency, remember, we're talking about them adjusting their pace and their expression. I want to thank you for watching. If you have any questions or any concerns, please feel free to contact me at kswigert@westperry.org. Thank you again.